Hello everyone! Today I will show you how to create women's earrings for 3D printing. We will be making them in the Nomad Sculpt. To begin, let's delete the sphere. Next, we'll add a cube to our scene. In the cube's parameters, let's set the values for x as 8, y as 2.4, and for the z-axis as 6.5. This cube will serve as our reference point, essentially representing our earlobe. The earlobe is rounded, so let's trim the corners using the trim function. In the settings of this function, make sure to check the box next to Fill Holes. Next, select the polygon tool and proceed as follows. Click on the green circle to cut the cube. Next, add a cylinder. In the cylinder's parameters, set the radius to 0.4 millimeters. Position the cylinder using the gizmo tool. Duplicate the cylinder, and in the parameters of the duplicated cylinder, set the radius to 1.2. Next, using the gizmo, pull the cylinder along the y-axis to approximately match the earlobe. Duplicate this cylinder and then compress it so that its size along the y-axis is 0.8 millimeters. Using the tube tool, let's create the earring hook. Select the path mode and using the earlobe as a guide, draw a line like this. By clicking the green circle, our line will turn into a tube. Pressing on profile, we can change the profile from circular to this shape. Let's add a helper cube to our scene with parameters set to 1 to control the thickness. Going back to our earring hook, click on the radius to independently adjust the size of the hook at both ends. Adjust the thickness, referring to our earlobe and the cylinder. Once again, click on the radius to control the size at each bend control point and continue adjusting the thickness. Don't forget to save your project. Add a cube to our scene, and in its parameter settings, set values for x as 1.5, y as 1, and increase for the z-axis. Adjust the rod in such a way that there's approximately 2 millimeters from the bottom. Ensure that in this area there's about 2.8 millimeters. Continuing to shape the earring hook and ensuring the size is controlled in the area where the hole for the pin will be later. If everything looks good, press Validate. In the material settings, you can choose blending and reduce opacity to see the earlobe through the earring hook. Next, using the trim and polygon functions and referencing the earlobe and the auxiliary cube, trim our earring hook. This will reduce its thickness. Our earring hook is not centered now, so we need to move it. Do this using the gizmo. I didn't notice right away that the gizmo wasn't aligned properly with our model. We need to align it by pressing Pivot and Align. Moving the model to the origin, 0 point. Then we position our ear wire as needed. Turn on symmetry along the y-axis on both sides and work with the flatten, move, and smooth brushes. Combine the cylinder and the earring hook using the Boolean function and smooth the surface with the smooth brush. Next, remesh the mesh using the voxel remeshing command and continue smoothing. Add another cube with these parameters: x 2.4, y 1.1, z 4. Position this cube like this. Then create a hole in the earring hook using this cube and the Boolean function. We add a sphere and position it like this. The sphere with a radius of 0.55. Clone the sphere and move it here. Mask the first sphere using the Cell Mask tool and pull it down. Cut out the spheres from the earring hook. There's a slight thickness issue in this area, so let's add a bit of thickness and adjust it. We mask using the Cell Mask brush. We blur the mask and invert it. We pull it using the gizmo and make adjustments using brushes like flatten, smooth, and drag. Duplicate this cylinder and work with it. With symmetry enabled along the axis, give the cylinder this shape. Cut out this element from the earring hook. Create a similar shape on the duplicated cylinder. We work with brushes like Move, Flatten, Cell Mask, Gizmo, Trim, and Smooth, periodically remeshing the mesh as we go. Adjust its shape. Mask and pull up the cylinder's top part. Using the tube tool, build the upper part of the earring. Position it correctly with the gizmo. Increase the tube's radius. Change the profile. Toggle the radius, reduce the top, and enlarge the bottom. Bend the curve according to the ear. Bring everything to a polished look. If everything is satisfactory, press Validate. Duplicate the small cylinder and enlarge it. We will cut it out from this part of the earring using the Boolean command. Adjust this part relative to the lower one. Add multi-resolution. It's probably better to remesh the grid using voxel remeshing. Smooth and adjust. Check symmetry. Something went wrong here. Correct the mistakes using symmetry and continue refining the shape. Working on this part, let's call it the beak. Trim the excess. Remesh the grid. Use the smooth brush to refine the surfaces. Combine the beak and the upper part using the Boolean command. Cut out the pin from both parts of the earring. To make the clasp work, we'll add a cube. With this cube, we'll create such a cutout. Trim the protruding parts, they are unnecessary. We can take a rough look at how everything will work. Adding a plane to the scene from which we will create a leaf. Reduce the polygon count. And use the Move tool to shape it. Currently it's flat. We can slightly bend it using the project function. Just make sure to follow the arrow to ensure the plane surface projects onto the curved line correctly. If the arrow points in the wrong direction, press flip. Let's mask the center using the cell mask brush, invert the selection, and create a depression using Gizmo and the Move tool. Position the leaf at the top of the earring. Duplicate the leaf and move it. Duplicate the leaf again and move it even higher. Next, we need cell mask and the thickness parameter. Let's start with -1. Smoothness is turned off. Extract. It seems like this isn't enough visually. Add a cube to the scene. By default, it's 1 millimeter. Using it as a reference, adjust the thickness. .5 will suffice. Repeat this action with each leaf and delete the used planes. Add multi-resolution to each leaf. Adjust the placement of the leaves. Next, let's mirror the leaves from left to right. Using the tube tool, we'll add branches to our leaves. And also mirror them on the left side. I still feel like we're missing a leaf at the top, so let's create it in the same way as we did with the previous leaves. Add a plane to the scene and work on creating another leaf. Make some adjustments to this part of the earring to match the other branches. The new leaf seems a bit thin, so let's give it a bit more thickness. Mask it and pull it downward. Measure the thickness and smooth it out. Now we can delete the earlobe, it's no longer needed. Let's combine these earring parts using the Boolean operation. Clone the earring along with the ear wire. Move the duplicated earring to the side. Next, we'll move on to rendering. Paint the earrings in a yellow color. Set the metalness parameter to 1 and roughness to 0.15. Switch the camera to perspective. Focal length should be around 100. Choose shading, lit, PBR. Enable post-process and adjust the metal color. Fine-tune the rendering settings according to your preference, aiming for the best result. In my opinion, it turned out quite well. Lastly, we can optimize the mesh using decimation and send our earrings for 3D printing. You can download the file in STL format by following the link in the description. I'd also be happy to see you on my Instagram page, where you'll find many of my works. The link to my Instagram can also be found in the video description. Thank you to everyone who watched till the end, and I look forward to your feedback. Create beautiful jewelry.